Hey everyone, this is Paul, and you are listening to season 2, episode 2 of the Generation Latino podcast. First off, I want to thank you for tuning in last week to last week's episode. Like I always say, every single week, it truly means a lot to me. And I hope your day's going well, your morning, your afternoon, if you're up late at night, whatever time it is when you're listening. I just want to send you good vibes, good energy, and just making sure that everything is going completely the way that you want it to go. Today's episode is going to be a little different. I Have you ever been called a bitch? That's first things first. Have you ever been called a bitch in your life, whether it was from a partner, a friend, a family member? And I say this because I was at my brother's graduation a couple weekends ago, and my sister and I were kind of talking about basically like my love life. And she just turned around and she was like, you're such a bitch. And that kind of brought up a lot of questions for myself. And mind you, I love my sister. She did not mean that in a mean way. She just was like, you're a bitch. And it made me think, like, am I a bitch or am I just setting boundaries? So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Am I a bitch or do I just have boundaries? All right, everyone. So the word bitch gets tossed around a lot, and I have been called a bitch several times in my life, in my career. I've been called a bitch, a diva, high maintenance, all those things kind of all come together, right? And one thing I will say for sure, I always do every decision I make is with the intent of being the best version of myself. And I think sometimes people confuse having boundaries, setting limits as being a bitch. And especially for women and anyone who is part of the LGBTQ plus community or any minority group, right? I just got off a session with my therapist and I was kind of having this conversation with her. And the older I get, it seems the bitchier I get, quote unquote. And I think what it is the older I get, I realize the threshold and bandwidth of bullshit that I am not willing to deal with. And I think oftentimes people are okay with the bare minimum. They're okay with being treated like shit. They're okay with being a back burner of someone. They're okay of having somebody halfway, meaning that they're not fully committed to them. And one thing I know for sure in my life, I'm very proud of the life that I live and my accomplishments, whether it's scholarly or career wise or mental health wise. One thing I am for sure is that I will always know my worth and I will never settle for second best. For you out there listening, have you ever caught yourself in situations where you're second best and you know you're second best, but you still continue allowing someone to treat you second best? Me? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. You're not going to treat me like a back burner. If I am not your priority, you're number one when it comes specifically in relationships. I'm not going to bother. I'm not. I'm not. I understand putting yourself first, and I expect everyone to put themselves first. But what I'm saying is when it comes to people who are putting other things in front of you and you're allowing them to do that, I won't do that. Everyone who knows me knows that I will not do that. I don't care if you look like Channing Tatum, Zac Efron, has the best sex in the world. I do not care. I will not settle for someone's second best. I won't, which is why we're having this conversation because I'm single, right? I've been divorced going now. This year will be 6 years that I've been divorced. And heartbreak, it's awful, right? Heartbreak is one thing, divorce is another. I mean, it just kind of all piles up to a bunch of just crazy heartache bullshit. But for me, after I got out of my marriage, I only had one boyfriend after that, and then I just dated. And I've been, single ever since then. But what I realize is that when I am dating, specifically now in 2025, it is not easy. It's not easy. And what I'm realizing is people are just willing to kind of accept anything that comes their way. Anything. And because of that, their confidence is low. They'll put up with anything. They don't care if how they're treated. And for you listening out there, and if you're in a situation like this, like, know your fucking worth. Know your worth. I can't say it enough because when you start to say, no, I'm not going to put up with this. No, I won't do that. No, I won't do this. It puts up a boundary, but then it adds a little bit more glitter, if you will, to your confidence. Because then you know that you are not gonna be putting up with a guy who's giving you some attention. No, I don't give a fuck who's giving me attention and who's not. Just don't settle. So, this bitch word comes out a lot, and especially with someone like myself who really holds firm with their boundaries. No means no. Yes means yes, and that is it. I challenge you to bring out that inner quote unquote bitch. And I say that because I may be a bitch, I may be a diva, I may be high maintenance, but no one is taking advantage of me. No one's taking advantage of me, my money, my heart, my career, because I'm not going to allow it to happen. I'm just not. And part of that stems from how I grew up, right? Growing up in a Latino community, growing up with a very unstable foundation when it came to my mom and dad arguing, fighting, and always just being in a toxic space. But what I told myself when I got older, I was like, okay, I just never want that. I never want to be at not just a man's mercy, but at anyone's mercy. And that's why I think education is important. I think with education comes more opportunities. With more opportunities, it means that you're not stuck somewhere. And I always tell people, I don't give a shit if I have a million jobs. I'm never going to be at someone's mercy in that way, where sometimes you sell yourself short when you're limited to what you can do, which is why I always tell people go to school, get a degree, open up your palette when it comes to your skill set so that you're not stuck somewhere. And so that when you are unhappy, you really get to be able to move and navigate life the way that you want to navigate it. Because what you don't want to do is be somewhere where you're unhappy. And that's even in a relationship as well, where you really feel like you're not worthy of anything else but what you have. And for me, I'd rather have a Saturday night by myself than be in something that I know that I'm above, right? And I'm not saying don't have fun and don't, if you have a good hookup, keep it that way. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is getting invested in something that is not worth it. It's okay. You want to dip it and do it and have that fun, friends with benefits. Well, keep it at that. Don't get caught up in your emotions and he loves me, she loves me. Girl, boy, no. Know your worth. Know your worth. And I say that because I know I've spoke about it on previous episodes. I set that boundary and that part of me where no, I'm not gonna deal with this. My family always sometimes tells me, "Man, you're ruthless, like, you don't give chances." It's not that I don't give chances, it's just that I'm not going to keep repeating the same mistake. I do give a chance, but what I'm not gonna do is give a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and then what? You look like the dumbass, right? You look like the one who was stupid, like, you're the dumb one. I'm sorry. So, people that I know that are in situations that they're so much better than, obviously, like, they gotta learn on their own, but for you listening out there and you find yourself in a situation where you're not putting yourself first and you're allowing the delusion of what you think you want it to be, it's not it. So, again, be that bitch. Set the boundaries, set the tone. I'd rather be called a bitch a million times over than have people walk over me, than have people be able to dictate my life and my work. You listening out there, I never want you to be at a point where you're so low about yourself that you're willing to take anything that comes your way. And that's love, career, anything that comes your way because you really deserve more. And if I switch it off to something like work, which I've been called a diva just recently, I was called a diva at work, high maintenance. It's about setting that boundary, right? It's about not being driven only by your work and your career. And you also catch a lot of people just solely focused on one thing and then everything else falls apart. For me, I set a very firm boundary with work. I do. If I feel like my cup is overflowing, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna say what I mean what I say, and I'm gonna be vocal about anything that I may need or want. You know, you can do it in a respectful way, but if there is something bothering you, bring it up. Talk about it. We live in such a passive aggressive world where everybody wants you to assume how you feel. And I bring this up in another episode where I talk about the 4 agreements, right? And I talk about making assumptions. Everyone is making assumptions about things. They should know what I want. They should know what I need. My boss should know how I feel. No, no one's boss should know how you feel. No one should know that you're burnt out. You have to let people know how you feel. You have to let people know what is going on. If something is bothering you, tell them. Work has been really challenging for me as of late because of the petty bullshit of lack of communication. Someone came up to me and said something passively to well, they actually told somebody else something about something that happened at work about me. It became this huge thing. HR got involved. Obviously, I was the one that was considered a bitch. I was the one that was considered mean. I was considered a bully or whatever it may be. All I said was, this person, if there was an issue, could have come up to me like a grown adult versus assuming things. We hashed it away. But at the end of the day, I'm like, now I'm a bitch because I spoke my mind. I'm a bitch because I said what I needed to say. All I said was if that certain individual had a problem with the way I did something, why did they not tell me? And because I said that, I was considered a bitch. Well, quite frankly, I don't give two rats' ass if someone thinks I'm a bitch. Now, if I'm being disrespectful, rude, mean, then come talk to me. But people have a hard time, truly, I mean this, people have a very hard time with boundary setting and a very hard time when you speak the truth. And if you're listening out there and you struggle with this, please practice it. Practice setting those boundaries. Practice speaking the truth and being transparent. Because at the end of the day, all you have is you. All you have is you. You don't have anybody else but yourself. And that's when I set my boundaries and I set my expectations. And yeah, sometimes I do get a little disappointed when I set my expectations too high, which is why I've had to lower my expectations at times because I get disappointed or whatnot. But if you're out there listening and you tell yourself, am I really a bitch or am I just setting boundaries? Ask yourself that. Are you really someone who's a bitch or you're just not allowing a guy to take advantage of you? A colleague or a boss taking advantage of you? Ask yourself this. And if you say that that's what it is, then continue doing that. Continue doing that. Now, if you're just a bitch and you're just mean, well, you're just a bitch and you're just mean. But I think oftentimes society creates these narratives of diva-like behavior, boundary setting, transparency to, oh, she's being difficult. Oh, he's being difficult. That's the only way to protect yourself. There is no other way to protect yourself than to set clear boundaries and to be transparent with what you want, what you don't want, what you need, what you don't need. And that goes for anything, whether it's relationship, work, something that you don't like customer service wise. Just let people know that it's not what you want. You don't got to be a dick, right? Like you don't got to be mean about it, but some people will take it that way. So if that is you, you are not a bitch. You're just making sure that you are protecting yourself. Because I'm telling you right now, no one's going to do that for you. No one. I have a loving family, love my siblings, love my mom. But at the end of the day, I am the only one who can make myself happy. No one else can. And if that means me being a quote unquote bitch, then I will continue to do that. Because one thing I am not going to do is allow someone else to give me the happiness that I want. I refuse to do that. And I ask you to do the same thing. Don't allow someone to give you happiness. Know your worth. I say it all the time, but I truly mean that. I see so many people making such shitty decisions, doing some things that are so beneath them, but because they feel so low about themselves, because they never set that boundary. They never set that expectation. And because of that, they are taking anything. Bottom of the barrel. Bullshit. If you're dating someone, expect nothing but the best. If you're going to be putting effort into someone and you're a side piece or you are someone who just to them, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. The energy, and I say this all the time, you should be putting the energy into your self-growth, your self-help, your education, right? Remember that. And I get it. It's not easy. Being Latino, being part of the LGBTQ plus community, for you women listening out there, it's not easy. But at least try it. At least try it so that you put yourself first. But once again, I just want to thank you for listening. And I really wanted to talk about this topic about, am I a bitch or am I just setting my boundaries? And if you like this episode, please feel free to share it. If you are listening on any platform, please feel free to like it, leave a comment. But I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode. And I hope you have a beautiful day, a beautiful rest of the week, depending on when you're listening. But once again, remember, you are not a bitch. You are just setting your boundaries. Until next time, I'll see you on the next episode.